Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, we are from group 4. We would like to present the material in chapter 6 that is about storytelling. But before we start the presentation, I'd like to introduce our members. Here are I Delis, the second one Dela Rahmawati, the third one Helga Rifa F, the fourth one Syahrul Mubarok, and the last one Gina Amelia M. And before we start the presentation, I'd like to share the outline for today. Here are why we tell stories in the classroom. The second one, how we tell stories in the classroom. And then the third one, effective storytelling activities. The fourth one, designing a lesson with storytelling. And then the last one, the example of plan. Okay, to make time effective, let's move to the first material that is about why we tell stories in the classroom that will be delivered by me. Okay guys, talking about storytelling, let's recall about our childhood that we always asked to our parents or our grandma to tell the story in the past. For example, about horror, right? And here the book said that sharing stories or storytelling is one of way to engage the students to involve in our teaching and learning process. Especially if we want to introduce new language, there are structures or vocabulary. And here we have 4 reasons why tell stories in the classroom. Why we tell stories in the classroom? The first is storytelling is an authentic form of communication. The second one, storytelling introduces new cultures to children. The third one, storytelling teaches young learners in an entertaining way. The fourth one, storytelling develops critical thinking skill. Let's move to the first point. That is about storytelling is an authentic form of communication. Okay guys, I believe that every region or country, they have story. It can be about the country, bisa tentang negara tersebut, atau tentang orang-orang di dalamnya, atau tentang sejarah, tentang asal-usul tempat tersebut, dan sebagainya. And termasuk di Indonesia, right? Dan di sini banyak sekali orang-orang yang membuat cerita, atau di sini istilahnya crafting tales. Mereka membuat cerita tersebut dan cerita-cerita mereka masih kita baca sampai dengan sekarang. Kemudian, I'd like to give example about the story in our culture. For examples, like bawang putih and bawang merah, sangkuriang, and then Joko Tarub, and so on and so forth. But the important point of story, especially if you want to teach story in the classroom, yaitu adalah moral value atau pelajaran hikmah yang dapat diambil dari cerita tersebut. And then for many cultures, they using storytelling or story for communicate from one generation to the next generation. For example, the story in our culture is Sangkuriang. Sangkuriang merupakan cerita yang terjadi pada zaman dahulu, tetapi orang-orang zaman sekarang itu mengetahui ceritanya. Entah itu dari mulut ke mulut, ataupun mereka baca melalui internet, ataupun mereka mendengar dari orang-orang terdahulu, dan sebagainya. Tetapi cerita Sangkuriang di sini itu tidak hanya lewat cerita saja, dapat dibuktikan dengan adanya artefak, yaitu Gunung Tangkuban Perahu. Kemudian if we search on YouTube, we can find the song with the title Sangkuriang. Jadi cerita Sangkuriang itu tidak hanya lewat cerita saja, tapi ada buktinya dengan artefak peninggalannya Tangkuban Perahu, kemudian dibuktikan dengan lagu-lagu yang dibuat oleh orang-orang. And then guys, pada faktanya, in fact that most of schools in their curriculum include or involve storytelling for teaching and learning process. Karena mereka berpendapat bahwa pada faktanya melibatkan story pada pembelajaran itu dapat mengengage. The students can fun in the activity of story. Mereka itu enjoy, fun, dan sebagainya. And then the second one, storytelling introduce a new culture to children. Di sini dikatakan bahwa stories are a carrier of culture. Jadi lewat cerita juga bisa memperkenalkan budaya seperti itu. According to Curtin and Dalberg stated, story or narrative is a powerful vehicle for experiencing culture. Values and concepts of the culture that are embedded in myth and folk tales can be shared through storytelling, story reading, and dramatization. 2010. Oke guys, di sini dikatakan menurut dua orang ahli ini, Curtin and Dalberg, bahwa story atau naratif itu merupakan powerful vehicle yang mana bisa berupa mitos, folktale seperti legenda, fabel, farabel, dan sebagainya. Kemudian cerita tersebut itu dapat disampaikan melalui storytelling. Storytelling di sini misal dalam pembelajaran di kelas itu kita posisinya sebagai teachers. Jadi kita yang tell the story, kita reading. Dan jika posisinya di students itu mereka listening, right? Kemudian di sini bisa melewati reading. Story reading here means that the students can get the information about story by themselves. Jadi student bisa mencari informasinya itu dengan membaca sendiri ceritanya. Kemudian dramatization. Story can bisa disampaikan melewati drama atau misalkan role play seperti itu. And then, okay guys, introduce new cultures to children here means that memperkenalkan budaya kepada anak-anak itu salah satu contoh di sini yaitu dengan memperkenalkan salah satu contoh cerita mengenai Cinderella. Jika kita mencari tahu bahwa Cinderella itu di setiap negara memiliki versi yang berbeda-beda. For example, the book stated that the story of Cinderella di negara Jerman, French, Egypt, China, Korea, Zimbabwe, Mexico, America, and others country, they have different versions. But secara general ceritanya itu sama, yaitu membicarakan mengenai the poor girl who is good and hardworking and ends up marrying a prince or king. Tetapi secara umum ceritanya itu sama, yaitu menceritakan, yaitu di endingnya itu mereka menikah, Cinderella menikah dengan seorang raja. Tetapi guys, setiap negara itu secara plot cerita itu berbeda, disesuaikan dengan cultures mereka masing-masing. Nah, disinilah gap teachers to introduce other cultures or new cultures for the teacher dengan salah satu cerita storytelling mengenai Cinderella. Bagaimana sih plot story Cinderella di negara Jerman, for example, atau di France, seperti itu guys. And then the third one, here is storytelling teaches young learners in an entertaining way. Entertaining way here means that the learners can attract in the teaching and learning process. Dan, for example, the book from Dr. Seuss with the title The Cat in the Hat and Hop on Pop. Sebenarnya ini tuh cerita lama, tetapi masih banyak the children read the story or listen the story karena mereka berkata bahwa the story is fun katanya. And guys, you have to know that the story is not only about the story that oral atau diceritakan oleh guru, tetapi cerita ini itu melibatkan song, yang mana maksudnya seperti ini loh, cerita yang dibungkus melalui song. Guys, most of them saja ya, cerita itu kan bisa mengengage students, apalagi ini dilibatkan dengan song. Maka the students here not only learn about story but about song, ritme dan sebagainya. Kemudian the fourth one here, storytelling develops critical thinking skill. What is critical thinking? According to Chance, 1986 defines that critical thinking as the ability to analyze facts, generate and organize ideas, defend opinions, make comparisons, draw inferences, evaluate arguments, and solve the problem. Okay guys, as the teachers in the future, we have to teach critical thinking skill for the students because critical thinking is very important, especially to help the students gain a deeper understanding texts, including those that provide information from a variety of cultures. Karena guys, ketika memahami suatu teks, students itu harus memiliki critical thinking untuk memahaminya. Kemudian ketika dihadapkan dengan perbedaan cultures, the students have to like compare budaya-budaya tersebut dan harus melibatkan critical thinking. Dan di sini dikatakan bahwa teachers can help students develop critical thinking skills by asking questions that require students to analyze and make inferences, and by encouraging students to compare themselves and their cultures to the stories they have heard. To this process, students can be encouraged to form their own opinions and evaluate the story for both content and delivery. Seperti gini, suatu peristiwanya, maksudnya suatu keadaan situasinya seperti ini. Misal di kelas itu the teachers itu setelah beres atau have finished tell the story, di sini ada 3 instruksi yang bisa dilakukan oleh the teachers. The first one is summarize, and then the second one edit, and then the third one develop. Apa sih maksud ketiga term tersebut? Maksudnya seperti ini. Mulai dari summarize ya guys. Summarize means that ketika the teachers have finished tell the story, so the teachers have to instruct the students to summarize the story. Bagaimana sih? Nah, contoh aktivitasnya itu bisa berupa the students retell the story by their atau own words in simple way. Nah, bagaimana aktivitasnya? Begini teman-teman, kalau misalnya kita dihadapkan dengan students yang in high level atau high class misal istilahnya, maka the teachers can let the students to tell the story individually, come forward and then tell the story by their own words and then in the simple way. But if we dihadapkan misal seperti yang in low class, misal studentsnya, kita bisa menginstruksikan students untuk membuat group work seperti itu. Nah, dengan membagi-bagi part di antara mereka, dan yang terpenting itu semua siswa itu kebagian part untuk tell the story using their words seperti itu. And then the second one is edit. What does it means? Edit here means that jika the teachers have teachers tell the story from start until climax, sampai dengan tengah-tengah cerita. Kemudian setelah itu the teachers let the students to apa ya istilahnya? Membuat plot baru. Membuat plot yang kita mungkin pernah dengar dengan istilah plot twist. Salah satu contoh cerita misal Cinderella. Kan dalam faktanya cerita Cinderella itu kan di akhirnya itu Cinderella menikah dengan King. Bisa saja dengan critical thinking students, ternyata yang menikah dengan King itu adalah ibu tirinya Cinderella. For example, plot twistnya itu seperti itu. Nah, sepertilah contoh situasinya. Kemudian yang ketiga itu develop. Develop itu bisa salah satu contoh situasinya itu misal dengan memprediksi cerita. Misal seperti kasus di awal, seperti contoh di awal situasinya itu the teachers tell the story from start until the climax atau di tengah-tengah cerita. Kemudian the teachers let the student to predict kira-kira apa nih akhirnya endingnya seperti apa nih, seperti itu kan melibatkan critical thinking, yang mana critical thinking dari students atau yang learners itu kan out of the box. Kadang tidak semua pikiran mereka, bahkan jarang sekali pikiran mereka itu dapat diprediksi oleh orang dewasa gitu, oleh adults. Nah, seperti itu teman-teman. So if you want to know the specific method, the activities in the classroom, bagaimana sih cara mengajarkan storytelling di kelas, lebih detailnya akan disampaikan oleh the next material by my friends. So guys, that's all from me. Thanks for your attention. Thank you.
Okay, here I would like to explain about how we tell stories in the classroom. Before the teacher bring the story into classroom, there are 2 important things that the teacher should do. The first one is the teacher should choose the right story, and then the second one is the teacher should prepare to tell the story. Choosing the right story is the first steps that in successful storytelling. The story should be, the first one is the be highly predictable, and then the second one is the story should be familiar to the home culture of the students, and then the story should be have a high percentage of vocabulary and high percentage of known vocabulary, and then the story should include repetitive and predictable patterns, and then provide opportunities for to apply drama and total physical response. And the last, the story should lend themselves to use of visuals and realia to make input comprehensible. Okay, predictable stories make use of rhyme, repetition of word, precise sentences, and such patterns like cumulative structure, repeated scenes, familiar cultural sequences, interlocking structures, and turn around the plot. The predictable stories help the children develop the a sense or feel for language for foreign language learning, and predictable stories are help the children to learning English as a foreign language, develop both oral language as well as written skill. Storytelling can provide experience with the interpretative mode for children, even at a very early stage of language acquisitions. And then in early stage, is it especially helpful to choose stories that include vocabulary representing the home and the school environment of the children. And then the story is repetitive. It means that making use of formulas and patterns that occur regularly and predictably. In the best story chosen, these repeated elements provide language that children can use later for their own expressive purpose. And the repeated pattern create a way into the story for the active listener, as well as providing a natural support for language learning. And beside that, the story are memorable as the language is repeated, and this encourage the students to participate. And this rest and then the repetitive story is recycling of pattern inside students to predict what is coming next in the story, at the same time exercise the students' imagination. Okay, and when the story meet this criteria, as I said before, it is much easier for the students to make learning clear, not only because the stories are related to their real life, but also because the use of pantomime and body language of the teachers, it can also make the story more comprehensible for the students. And on the other hand, stories contain patterns that help the students to get familiar with the internalize the new language. Okay, and then the second thing that the teacher should do before the teacher bring the storytelling into the class is the teacher should prepare to tell a story. um to make the teacher storytelling engaging by the students, the teacher should prepare these four elements. The first one is the theatrics, and the second one is props, and then scripts, and the last is rehearsal. In the theatrics, the teacher should make gestures when they are tell the story for the children, and then body movement, it is important to do by the teachers, and then dramatic poses, and then character voices. I think it is important, and it is interest to it can make engage the students and of our story. And for example, when the teacher tell about the cat, so the teacher should make of the voice of the cat, and I think it can make your story is more interesting. And then facial expression also, it is important. The teacher should can can make a visual expression when the teacher tell the story, and then speaking slowly and clearly. And the next elements that the teacher should prepare is proofs. uh, in the proofs, the teacher can use a visual for setting and characters, and realia it's mean that object and material for from everyday life, especially when used at teachings. So the teacher should should choose the story based on the realia. And then the teacher can mask for role plays, costume for role play, and then hand or pincher puppets and PowerPoint slides or storyboard. The PowerPoint slides can help the teacher when the teacher tell the story, because when the students so the students not only listen the story for the teacher, but also the student can see the picture of the story. And I think it can what's that it can help the student to understand more about your story. And then the rhetoric and props are particularly important as they help to generate interest and enjoyment in learners, and they make input comprehensible. The combination of voice, puppets, and the background drawing would make the storytelling fun, entertaining, and also help the students understand the story better. And the other important element is the script. So the teacher should prepare the script before the teacher tell the story in the class. The script here, the teacher can use illustration from the storybooks and adapt the script to learners levels, and then create role. Students can play and integrate songs or chants, and prepare places in the storytelling for question and predictions. So, script preparation should build in time for students' participation and comprehension question throughout the storytelling, which will help keep the level of the student engagement high. And the last, the most important thing that the teacher should do before the teacher bring the story into classroom, that is rehearsal. Of course, we need to rehearsal before the teacher tell the story to the classroom. In the rehearsal, the teacher can memorize the takes, including question for the students, and then use cue cards if necessary. Cue cards here mean a card with keywords and plot elements from the script. And then the teacher practice in front of the mirror. And then the teacher should practice in front of the mirror. The teacher can do this practice to make the teacher more confident when the teacher tell the story. And then the teacher should record or videotape yourself. It can help the teacher to make to know about what are the weaknesses of their storytelling, so the teacher can improve and can improve their story to be better. And then the teacher can rehearse using props, and then the important things the teacher should practice. Yeah. And then store and then although it best to memorize as much the text as possible, it can be helpful to prepare the teacher performance in the class. So that's all for me. Thank you.
In this part, we are going to talk about effective storytelling activities. in this part, it divides into three subcategories, which is before storytelling, during storytelling, and after storytelling. It is like the usual teaching plan. Like there is pre-teaching, during teaching, and post-teaching. So it's like the same thing. So the first one is before teaching storytelling. Before storytelling, I mean the activities before the storytelling itself. So the thing that you can do is to capture the students' attention. You can bring like a really colorful book, like a very interesting book, which is like eye-catching for them. It's to stimulate their interest first. So you have to make the students kind of interest to know about the story, right? So you have to like catch their attention or something. You can bring a really colorful book as a cover of the story that you're going to tell, or like you can make a popsicle, like a puppet, or maybe there are many interesting ways to actually capture their attention. And the next one is connect to prior knowledge and experience. So this is the usual kind of thing. Obviously, if you want to bring the story to the class, the students have to know about the vocabulary used, or like the experience that can relate to their life, because if it's not like relatable to their life, it's kind of hard to bring the real context, because students are very like, they have to know, as we already learned in the characteristic of learners, they have to learn about something like kind of concrete object. So you have to relate the story to their life, or like their experience and knowledge. And the next is review language students have learned. If you want to bring the story, obviously you have to make sure that the students already know about the language, or maybe like you already learned it before, so you have to review it so that they can use it in that story, or like they can catch the meaning of the teacher. If the student don't know that vocabulary use, or like the kind of vocabulary, language, or grammatical form, it's very hard for them to understand the story. So the next one is pre-teach new vocabulary or expression. This is so different from the third step, for like the third activities. This one is like teaching new vocabulary. Like before we want to read something, there are like kind of a vocabulary list for us, that like kind of a new one, or like there's something that we don't know before. So we give them like kind of key term, or like key term, like our vocabularies that is very crucial in the story. And the next is ask students to predict what will happen in the story. So it is very good for the students to actually predict what's gonna happen. If you already give like kind of pictures, or like a sentence of the story, and what do you think is gonna happen, you ask the student if like they know about the story, or like what's gonna happen. For example, like they're talking about the kingdom, the princess, and a frog, and what's gonna happen. And maybe like they have very good imagination, and it's very good for the critical thinking, for the higher order thinking, thoughts, and give students a purpose for listening. Exactly, because like if there's no point of listening to the story, obviously students not going to listen about it, and then it can help them to engage, to active listeners, and it's also good for them, and just they have to be an active learner or an active listener, obviously, so they pay attention to it. And it's just, but if you use it in a very enjoyment way, it's kind of easy to catch their attention, and if it gives them like purpose to after those activities before storytelling, there comes during storytelling. So in this part, we have to make sure that they actually comprehend the story itself. So the thing that you can do to engage the story with the students, there are four. So the first one is question and answer. In this part, you can ask the student like, do you guys understand or do you comprehend about the story? And then just like the casual kind of question that related to the story itself. So you have to make sure that they are engaged to the storytelling, to the story, and they actually understand it. And the next one is repetition. So repetition is very important, especially for like young kids. You have to repeat it over and over again so that they can actually catch the meaning, catch the plot, catch the character, catch everything, catch the story, so that they actually understand about what the story say, about the storytelling. And then the next is TPR, total physical response. This is a very fun way to actually deliver storytelling. Students are very active, so you have to make sure that they are they enjoy the learning, they actually have fun, because it is very good for their movement, their kinesthetic, their physical. So it's very good for them to move around. So it's good that if you engage your teaching using TPR, so you can also develop their growth. And the next one is create your own ending. This is also for checking their critical thinking. So you can ask the students to like after like if you already finished for like a quarter or like almost the half of the story, or like almost the end, or after the climax, you can ask the student, what do you guys think is gonna happen after that? So it is very good for the higher order thinking, also for the critical thinking. And after storytelling, so in this section, so after the storytelling, you have to check the students' comprehension for like overall. And the thing that you can do is, the first one is group retelling. So in this step, in these activities, you can be like simple retelling to the group, or like you put them in a group, in a smaller group, and they have to retell the story that the teacher already delivered. And obviously they're going to like deliver the story different from like the original one, because it's actually adapt to their own vocabulary, their own understanding. So it's just very interpretation, based on their interpretation. And the next is games. There are so many games that you can comprehend for this after storytelling. For example, you can start and stop game, like if the teacher's going to tell about the story again, but then the wrong plot, or like the wrong name, character name, or wrong grammatical. So and then the student's going to be like, stop, start, and stop. So it's very cool. And then after that, and the next is storyboarding. In this one, you can make like a simple kind of comic strip, but like kind of empty comic strip, so blank comic strip. So the students have to draw the story in a sequence. It's good because they love to draw, kids love to draw, so that they draw the characters on their imagination. So it's very good for their creative minds, and also their comprehend of the language of the story itself. And the next is story mapping. In this one, this is like kind of analyzing. They can analyze the story, they can analyze the characters, so that they can get the meaning, they can get the moral of the story, and analyze the character. Obviously, in a story there is like a protagonist or antagonist, so they have to analyze if whether this is good or not, or like So it is good for to analyze and evaluate the value for themselves that they can use in real life. And they can make mini books. They can put like pictures, they can put and like everything inside the mini book itself to about the story they can make at home, or like they can make in school. And the next one is personalized or parallel story. In this one, so I already told you about that. This story has to be like relatable to their life, to their own experience. So in this parallel story, you have to know that the students can actually make their own story, but like with a similar sequence or similar plot, which they can relate to the story that you already told in the class. And then there is also a cultural connection and then personalized story. In cultural connection, they might have the same kind of story in their own culture and their own environment, so they have to relate to the story that you already told. And then personalize the story, like I already explained before, that maybe they have similar experience or similar kind of things that happen in their life, so that they can relate to the story. And then the next is project. The project can be a thematic unit requiring students to learn more about the story, topic, context, author, culture. So in this one, you can make a creative storytelling with story maps. Creative retelling with story maps, it means that they create their own story based on the story map. They make their own, so they have to make for example, they put like pictures and kind of plot in the poster, and they're going to tell about about the story based on the picture, based on the poster. And then based on the story, usually like kind of fairy tale or like the story, there is also like the culture behind it. So they can explore the context or explore the culture about like the kind of homes in Indonesia, like rumah gadang or like joglo, and then there are very much others. So it's very good for them to actually explore the culture about the people and the environment, the language they use, or like the celebration that they celebrate. And then the next is research the author. For this one, they can research the author. For example, like there is a very Hans Andersen for the story teller, the story maker about fairy tales. And then the next one is perform a play. This is very fun. This is very good for their kinesthetic, for their movement, their growth. So to perform a play, like kind of drama, they can be pretend like they love imaginary kind of thing, because they have very good imagination. So the student can pretend to be like a Cinderella or a certain character. It doesn't have to be human. They can be like a tree or like a star, because it is very good for them, so that they can like, or maybe you can make a puppet show. It's very good and very fun for them. So I hope that works for you. So thank you.
Okay, the next is about designing a lesson with storytelling. So here, in order to conduct the storytelling lesson, it is important to prepare activities such as before, during, and after the storytelling. Here, in the stage warm-up, type of activities here before storytelling activities such as this book suggested activities such as capture their attention, and then connect to prior knowledge, and then the feeling students have learned in the previous meeting, and then pre-teach new vocabulary. If the teacher in this, if this theme is about the animals, so the teacher give the animal vocabulary. also ask students to predict what will happen after the line, and also give students a purpose for listening this storytelling. So for presentation during storytelling activities, the teacher give the Q&A is related to the storytelling also, and then repetition, because as we know that the young learners sometimes do not catch up the whole story, so the teacher make sure that repetition about the storytelling. Also make TPR, also create your own ending, because the young learners really like fun ending and happy ending, something like that. And the last one is keep us students to predict in warm up. For after storytelling activities here in this book, like check prediction, group retelling, games, and then storyboarding, story mapping, mini books, personalized or parallel story, project, and play performance. Here in this book, we have one example about the lesson plan of storytelling. According to Corey O'Sullivan 2013, it is about a big lesson for little frog. So in the lesson plan, the student profile here is grade 2. It is about beginning level of English proficiency. And then in this book, in the lesson, skill to be emphasized here is listening and speaking. And then for language, in the grammar fields, vocabulary fields, and expressions. In the grammar, it is something like can, can't, I can't, something like that. And for the vocabulary, something like, because it is about the animal, so the vocabulary is related to the animal, something like frog, giraffe, parrot, and then monkey. And also for animal actions such as swing, fly, hop, and then swim. And then for expression like look at me, look at that, look at this, something like that. So for the objective here, by the end of this lesson, the student will be able to explain what animal can do and what animal can't do. So the material here also, like here are 4 materials such as puppets, background scene which include a trees, and then flashcard, and then the last one is wood card. Okay, for warm up stage here, in the capture their attention, the teacher make puppets for the student to introduce the new friends. The little frog here, something like monkey, frog, giraffe, and the parrots. And then for the connect to prior knowledge and experiences, the teacher look through the pages of the storybook secretly, and then the teacher says something like, I see little frog has some animal friends. What animals do we know? Something like that. And then review language students have learned. Here the teacher make a flashcard to the student. It is to propose to review the animals here, and then when the child names an animal, the teacher can put the flashcard here to the web, something like this. For pre-teach new vocabulary or expressions, the teacher make a TPR to the students, something like the teacher give the question to the students, something like, how do this animal move? Something like that. and then use word cards for each movement and show the word card with each movement. So for the ask student to predict what will happen in the story, here the teacher show the little frog puppets and the background with a tree. Using the puppet, ask the student as the frog, something like, "Can I swing through the trees?" And ask the teacher, "Can little frog swing through the trees?" Something like that. And then the teacher make a table like something like this, and then make sure that the answer is correct. So for give students a purpose for listening, here while pointing at the T-chart, the teacher says about, "Let's listen to the story and see what little frog can do or can't do," something like that. So for the presentation or during storytelling, here the teacher gives the different voice related to the animal, something like the voice of frog like this and the voice of monkey like this, something like that. So for the TPR, for the first storytelling, when you hear the frog and the teacher give the action of the TPR, something like poke poke poke, something like that. And then for the monkey, the teacher give the instruction to the student to move the hands, something like pak 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 pak, something like that. And then for the parrots, the teacher give the instruction to the student, something like flying, wings. Nah, kayak gitu, set kayak gitu. For the example like this, you can see that. And then for the giraffe, the teacher give the example like boo boo boo, kayak gitu. Something like that. And then for the second storytelling, when you hear action, then do it. For example, swing, swim, fly, hop. So here, for after the storytelling practice, the teacher make a Q&A for the students and build the pair work to the students, something like partner A and partner B. Partner A give the question to the partner B and the partner B give the question to the partner A. And after the pair work, make sure that the teacher gives the instruction to the student to confirm the correct answer. And then for the storyboarding or group retelling, here the storyboard is jigsaw, and here prepare a large storyboard with picture of the different scene in the story. Here in the scene, the animals have speech bubble, so the first students put them in order, and the second together with the student to retell the story, and the third one is the teacher works with the students to write the dialogue of the story. And then the last one is students copy the storyboard to the text in speech bubble on their own sheets or paper. For the application after storytelling activities, here mini books or personalized or parallel story. The students make a mini books about themselves, and then they should be the main character of the story, something like sibling, friends, parent, grandparent, neighbor, teacher, something like that. And then for the assessment here, for the monitor progress, the teacher walk around to the classroom to the monitor the classroom management for the students, and check the student comprehension. I mean, like students who are struggling in the context. And then for the collect books here, the collects the mini books from the students. The teacher give the feedbacks. And also for the follow up, something like homework, and then homework for the next class, the teacher continue working on mini books about themselves. And for the next class, the teacher ask to the student to volunteer their mini books in front of their friends. And then the students are doing the short storytelling to the friends, using the pictures in their mini books, so that the students can tell the story from the mini books.